So welcome everyone. This is the June version of the Erase CERA peer-to-peer meeting, and we have a great group of folks today. Just to remind you, we are coming to you because we have a grant with our partners at the National Low Income Housing Coalition for what they're calling their Erase project, and it's focused on ending evictions and getting the emergency rental assistance out across the country in a very visible, accessible, and preventive way. And so we are part of a cohort of about 40 organizations doing this. And so we also learn from some of our partners. We have meetings every other week where we learn about different aspects of Erase, data collection, and what's going on. And then certainly planning for what's coming next. So you can go to the next slide. I would also like to remind people, if you are not speaking, you can please mute yourself so that we have the best sound quality and don't hear some interruptions. I did change the timing on this, but it has a mind of its own. I think it changes back, so you're going to have to keep us on the slide. So and I really want to hear from you today too. So Mishta, I think it was on the 7th of June, sent out the public information and the press release that the portal will in fact close at the end of this month, which we had heard. So one thing that they included in the guidance was to work with your local court to get a list of folks that are slated for the eviction dockets and filings, and see if you can message any tenants who have not yet applied. Mishta sent out through the portal mass emails to people that had applications in process and maybe not completed ones. So it's really important to get the word out. And so I'm just wondering if people have heard. I know a lot of you have changed your websites, maybe not all of you, but if you could change your messaging, that would be super helpful. I'm gonna just take anybody hearing any questions from people or confusion around it, or has it been pretty quiet around the portal closure? You can either unmute yourself or put it in chat. Anybody sent out flyers? I know I saw Lakeshore Legal Aid had developed a flyer that they were just distributing, which we also got. Any thoughts from anyone? Thank you. We are getting an influx of research and a few new apps. Yes. Thank you. We posted on our website and local media. Fabulous. And I saw that the Detroit Free Press picked it up. There was an article. So local media is definitely paying attention, of course, to this. Anybody else? Lots of phone calls. Thank you, Jesse. So did you have to actually redeploy staff and move folks around to respond to all those phone calls? We've been handling them okay with intake. Perfect. Yeah, I know you're getting phone calls. You have been getting phone calls all along. Diana's saying we put out on social media, emails, website, and in newspapers, contacted the court. Quite a bit of portal activity this weekend. Yep. Great. It's not surprising, but good. So the good news is the word is getting out. Let's go to the next slide, please. Wonderful. So I'm going to hand it off. Meredith is going to cover this one.
So the focus groups we've been doing, it's been me and the other intern, sorry, see if that goes back. Me and the other interns at MICA have been running them. We've talked to so far, we talked to landlords, the administrators, and legal aides in courts about the CERA program. We have one more left to speak with people with lived experiences or like tenants who received assistance through CERA. But we're just kind of trying to learn what worked for them, what didn't work with the CERA program. And we've been learning a lot of great stuff so far. We've seen a lot seen a lot of common themes relating to the portal and stuff. So it's been super helpful. We do plan on holding a webinar at some point to share this information and possibly one-pagers as well. Right now, though, we are looking for people with lived experience to participate. We will pay them for their time. If anyone here knows any people who they think would be interested, you can email Lisa at the end. We would love to hear from them.
Yes, thank you, Meredith. Yeah, it's you know, it's difficult to get people if they're working and they don't have time. It's really challenging. So we are paying people $150 to do, you know, a 1-hour Zoom call with us. So it's super easy. I think one more back. I did want to say also that we appreciate everybody. We are going to be sending out forms for those of you that did participate with us or helped us get landlords, a form to fill out for a stipend for your organization, because we really do value your time, and it does take some time to do this. We're also, as Meredith said, we're looking at maybe a webinar the last week of July or possibly the first week of August to talk about what we've learned with the focus groups. And we're also, producing one-pagers, which we will send out to you. All right, next slide, please. So just going further with some of the updates that we've learned from MISTA. Agencies have until July 15th to enter any paper applications that you may have received. I did want to clarify one thing that they noted, that received means not that it was postmarked by June 30th, but you actually had it in hand on June 30th. So it was received into your agency or your organization. You also need to catch up on your debt entries in the portal and the issuance of the demand for repayment letters by the end of June, the end of this month also. And the clear scores were being uploaded to the CERA portal to help you as well. Any comments from anybody or questions on any of that right now? All right. So housing stability services are something that MISTA mentioned, I believe, last month. And it's to continue to assist households who are under 80% of area median income after the portal closure and after the end of rental assistance. So MISTA asked you to put together a plan with a budget to kind of look at if you had any leftover funds, if you needed any adjustments. Your budget plans were also supposed to, look at your staffing resources and how you plan to manage it up until the end of the year when those housing stability services no longer could be, served to people. So what did people say in their plans? Those were due on the 15th, I believe. So what are you thinking in terms of FTEs that you might need for staff? So it's basically like a case management role to help people. And I'll cover the next slide, talks about all the different categories. Anybody have any comments on what your agency did to kind of think about housing stability services provision? You can either unmute or put it in chat if you'd like. All right, let's go to the next slide and then maybe people can be thinking about this. So this is what were included in the housing stability plans, all these different categories. So of course, eviction prevention and diversion, mediation between landlords and tenants, housing counseling, fair housing counseling, case management relating to housing stability, performing housing navigation to help folks access other emergency rental assistance programs or find housing, housing related services for survivors of domestic abuse or human trafficking, and then specialized services for individuals with disabilities or seniors that would support their ability to access or maintain housing. So maybe some of those accessibility supports or other types of services that would allow them to be independent. Well, this is a lot. This is pretty broad. What do people have to say about how you're going to perform these housing stability services? Thoughts from anyone? Let's see, who can I call on? Diana, what are you thinking?
Oh boy, does this mean I win the lottery?
Yes, yay.
Actually, I mean, we applied for one staff to stay on. We know because our other teams have gotten quite a bit of calls. People knowing that CERA is ending and they're either done with their additional assistance or they can't get another
Research.
Sure.
Sure.
So trying to help people navigate what they're going to do because our other funding, our ESG and our rapid rehousing funding, we have the strict FMRs that are, probably not going to be meeting their current rentals and income guidelines. So just basically we see this person being a resource navigator and, like you mentioned, a case manager, and to help with all the additional calls of people as they are realizing truly realizing that CERA is done, and just trying to help people through that crisis and to figure things out.
Sure. Thank you, Diana. Thanks for talking. So one of the themes that we heard in the focus groups that we did with CERA administrators, and I want to thank those of you that participated. And also we sent out the questions in writing and got a lot more responses from some of you that couldn't commit to the time. So we really appreciate that. So we really got some really rich information. But a lot of people, and this was also a theme across the other focus groups too. We heard it in the legal aid and I believe the landlords, the notion of sustainability, that a lot of people maybe were renting over their heads, or they, maybe their income really changed during the pandemic, and the rent that once was, doable became not doable, or it never was really 30% of their income. So, this housing stability services might afford you the opportunity of doing housing navigation, maybe helping people find a different unit that maybe is a lower rent. I know that's challenging right now because I know that a lot of rents have been going up. Recently we've been hearing, and also the amount of openings are really, really low. Angie's saying a lot of these things we have been doing for quite some time. It just allows us to keep our staff members that were added. That is true. So anyone else want to unmute and say anything about how many staff you're, thinking about using for housing stability services? All right. Let's go to the next one. Okay, this is Meredith.
All right, and so there are questions too about like if a household above the program cap for assistance. So essentially, if a household comes to you and they are above the cap, the program cap allows for you to still assist them. So assist them as much as you can. And then also you can refer them to other resources that could help them too. So even if someone's over the cap, there's enough room for you guys to still be able to help in some way.
Perfect. Right, and this is probably what you're used to doing anyway, even before we had this CERA funding, is you mix and match resources. So maybe, somebody can use, United Way funding, or faith-based, a church or some other kind of faith-based organization helping them. So mixing and matching to really make it work for someone is is good, and it's good that you can at least work with them up to the cap. Right, next slide, please. So billing, it's just asking that agencies should bill all your administration, funding, and case management to CERA 1 at this time, and do your best to get those spent, all the CERA 1 funding spent by June 30th, the end of this month. Your agency has an excess of CERA 1 case management and admin funds. You can contact them for an amendment to, either change those funds into financial assistance, or so if you do convert and get an extension, CERA 1 will be needed to expend fully by July 31st. So basically you get 1 month extension if you absolutely need it. But they're really shooting to have most everything spent down by June. So does anyone have any questions about this? Or do people feel like they're in a good position to spend all their CERA 1 by then? Don't see anybody raising their hand. Kate, what are you thinking? How are you guys doing on this?
I think I don't know as much because I'm not on the more the admin side, but I think we're doing well on case management and admin. We might have a little bit of excess financial assistance in CERA 1, but we still need to get with our finance department and get the numbers together this week.
Sure. Yeah. Jesse.
I would say that we're on track. I think a couple of things we're running into, and I don't know if other people are, but we have a couple of cases that are kind of down to the line that are in court, and we've been told that they don't have those arrears prior to March 30th, but they have a summons, and we're having difficulty getting those summons in time to close out the CERA 1 funds. So, that's just been something we've been kind of going back and forth with court, and I've been communicating with the tenants that, if we don't have that summons in hand, we won't be able to assist. So that's been really difficult. And then, just this thought of all of these refunds that are coming back that are under the CERA 1 funding that we'll have to spend out of the CERA 1, even if they come in July, and just processing that too, because, sometimes they're smaller amounts. And, recertification, there are smaller amounts that you spend, but if someone has $1,000 of rent, that's $3,000, so just kind of figuring that out, I think.
Sure. Yeah. And it's, that's a lot. And it's interesting to hear you say about working with the court. So I'm assuming your courts can only do so much because they can only hear so many cases and process, paperwork.
Yeah, I've learned a lot. To me, I just felt like I needed to do everything possible to assist these tenants. And I think, I'm maybe speaking out of turn because I don't understand it completely. I wish that I was a little bit more knowing on this, but there's some sort of 10-day rule that when the attorney of the landlord says that they need to take somebody to court, there's like a 10-day rule where they can't see the summons only 10 days prior to their court hearing. And so, like one of our courts is not seeing any cases until July. Well, that 10-day window isn't going to hit in the time we need it. So I've learned a lot about that. And our courts are really fantastic to work with, and they're trying to help as much as possible, but sometimes your hands are just tied. So I think if we've done everything we can, then that's important.
Oh, definitely. So 2 things I do want to mention. We did do an understanding evictions webinar on Monday. I don't believe it's on our YouTube page yet, but it should be soon. So we had Kelly Mackey Foster from Lakeshore Legal Aid, and she was talking about those different timeframes and the different rules. So that might be helpful as well. It was really interesting. We had a lot of questions on that webinar, so it was good information. But then also, and I know I saw Peggy Hertner from Michigan. I wonder if and maybe you can clarify this, Peggy, for the situations where the money, people are refunding, they're getting funding back, can they convert that to housing stability funds? Or can they use that for rental assistance by July 31st? Or, oh, I see Marshall too. Hi, Marshall. What are you thinking?
So the funds can be used by July 31st. We just can't go beyond that with CERA 1. So if we're getting funds back after then, I'll have to add to the update what to do with that. But the billings for CERA 1, like everything has to be done by July 31st as far as expenditures.
Gotcha. Okay.
Mhm.
Thanks. Any other comments or questions on that? All right, go to the next slide, please. So this is also part of the recent MSHDA guidance about excess funds. So Treasury considers any funds for they call it ERA 1, CERA 1, not expended by June 30th, excess funds by Treasury. So definitely be in touch with MSHDA. I know I heard from you that you're working with your finance folks to, see where you're at, but the sooner you can get with them, if you need an extension, the better. I know the end of the month will be a crazy busy time next week. All right, anybody expecting to request extensions? Anybody know at this point? Have you had any yet, Peggy or Marshall?
Yes, we have had a few,
Okay.
a few areas in the state have been granted extensions.
Good. And no one's out of money yet, right?
Nope.
Okay, good. Great. We can go to the next slide. So this is really important, and this was mentioned in MSHDA's update as well, the information about single audit. So the funding that you received really pushed everybody into needing one. So it's basically a threshold of $750,000 in any 1 year. So you need to connect with an audit firm, and it's really important to find a firm that's qualified to do it. Not every firm is. We actually just bid out our audit at MICA, and we found a couple firms that said they could not do a single audit, and some, I guess they're getting busy, I don't know, but so it was an issue. So you might want to get on this sooner rather than later, your finance folks. So you definitely want to get a bill for services to be performed in the next calendar year and pay for the audit. The 22 audit was CERA 2 funds, so you can utilize the money before the grant ends. That's important. So any questions from anyone on that aspect? See any hands? I don't see anything in chat. All right, we can go to the next slide, which is basically our last slide, unless anyone has any thoughts or questions. You have a group of colleagues that are brilliant, that are all walking the same walk with you. Does anybody have any things to share or questions? Okay, can you explain the clear rating? I'm going to let Marshall or Peggy do that, because that's a great question. I'm not really up on that myself, not doing that. So who wants to explain the clear rating?
Sure, I'll go ahead. So the clear rating, and Marshall, feel free to jump in at any time if you want, it's a tool that's being used to basically verify accuracy of identification and location. So when a score is high, that shows a high probability that the information on the application, like the person's identity and tying them to that address, is a very likely match that that's a legitimate situation. So 100 is the highest score, I believe. So scores below 50 are much less, we consider it less likely that the information is legitimate, but it doesn't mean that it's not. So MISTA is taking the applications with scores below 50 and doing a review on them. So we're literally going to remove those from the agency's caseload, put them with MISTA review. We have a team of about 10 people who are going to quickly go through those because we don't want to keep people waiting, and make a determination like, yes, this is an application that definitely needs to be denied, or no, this is one that, you know, maybe there was just like a transposed social security number, or some other things that, you know, clearly the person seems to be living in the unit. It's just not, you know, that one error maybe lowered the score along with a couple other things that are explainable. So those were just uploaded, the first batch June 10th, and they're it's a great tool for if you're like questioning the validity of an application and you see a really high score, you you know, can feel more confident with it. We did release the guidelines that state, depending on the score, what additional steps an agency may need to take to for that particular application. And that was released in the last 2 weeks. We've sent that out. So let's see, it looks like there might be a couple questions.
So does the clear score show up in the portal?
It does. And if you don't see a score, it's probably because it's a new application. So Marshall is uploading new, not new, but clear scores for those new applications every week. So if you don't have a clear score, wait on an application until he gets that updated, unless it is a court case or a homeless household.
Okay.
I think there was another one too.
Sorry?
I was just looking at the other.
Oh, yeah. How and when are over advanced funds of CERA 1 funds being recouped by MISTA? Our funding was reduced after fully collecting advance on an initial funding level.
Oh, and when are over. Okay, so this isn't for, this is funds to the agency. If you've got a specific issue with your funding, I would send that to the CERA inbox. And then we can get that answered for you.
Great. Any other questions? And thanks for explaining the clear. So it's basically, you know, an indication of the accuracy of the information.
Yeah, but we would never, ever want to deny an application solely based on clear score.
Yeah.
So that's why we're having humans look at it as well, not just, you know, a readout of that score. So, yeah.
That's good. Good to know.
Mhm.
Great. Anything else from anyone? I did want to mention our erase grant with National Low Income Housing Coalition actually was going through July, and we have an extension till the end of the calendar year. So we will be continuing to do that. Work with you on CERA and emergency rental assistance funding. And if you find these valuable, we would love to continue doing the peer-to-peer, because I think you learn a lot from each other. And we've been doing a rotation of the third Tuesday at 1:30. So the next one would be July 19th. So hopefully you can come. We'll get the Zoom and information out to you, hopefully a little earlier this time. I apologize that it was late, but put it on your calendar now, you know it's coming. And we will also let you know about the webinar to disseminate information on the focus groups. Yeah, you can go to the next slide, Meredith, please. And unless anyone has anything else. Oh, okay. We have special kudos to Nikki Hartman and IT for helping with all the tech issues. Yeah, nice to hear a shout out from somebody. Well, and thank you. I know you all are doing amazingly hard and demanding work, and it's coming in again like the fire hose with the end, of the portal. So yes, Peggy will let her know. Thank you. Well, it's great to hear all those. And I know Marshall and Peggy and I were talking about all the hard work of all the Mishta staff, going back to EDP as well. 2 years ago, if you guys would have thought that you would be administering millions and millions of dollars in addition to your other job, right, or all the other work that your organization is doing amidst a pandemic, it's just been phenomenal. So we know you guys are doing great work out there, and we really appreciate you. So thanks for everything you're doing, and take care, keep cool, and we'll see you next month. Bye, everyone.